have a question. What is your favorite song and how do you connect with it? Is it when you fell in love or through something really difficult? I'm your host, Tiffany Mason. Now join me as I interview others and we take a walk down memory lane with them. Let's get lost in why that music matters to them. Turn up your radio and let's explore Memories with a Beat.
Hello, Podcast Land. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Memories with a Beat. And today I have with me Justin Ploof, and he's from Minnesota, where you all know that's where I used to be. And so I reached out to a couple of my friends and I was like, hey, do you know anybody who loves music who would possibly want to be on the podcast? And one of my friends reached out to me and said, well, I know this guy, Justin. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Justin's kind of a big deal. So it's not like there's this random guy from nowhere. Justin, if you would expand just a little bit on just some of the cool things that you shared with me. I mean, I don't have a singing voice, but I am so unnormally enamored with people that can sing, that perform. Like I feel nervous interviewing you, and I know that you probably are like, I'm not a big deal at all. But for me, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you've done what I want to do. So it's just kind of cool for me.
Well, thank you. No need to be nervous. No, I'm honored to be here. Thank you for asking me. So yeah, I'll give your listeners the condensed version. I grew up. My father was musical, and so that's kind of where it all started. And then I played in church 2 services every other Sunday for probably 10 or 12 years. Ended up starting a band with my brothers when I was 16. I actually didn't even go to my high school graduation. I graduated high school. I didn't go to my high school graduation. I was playing at the House of Blues in Las Vegas. And
Cool.
yeah, so we were doing that and almost got signed with that group a couple of times. Didn't come to fruition. I ended up getting signed on my own a few years later to a record label and released an album and put out a single. And that didn't quite go as high on the charts as we hoped, but it still was a very cool experience. And so I still perform today and do all those things and release music. And but there's the condensed version of where I came from.
Very cool. I think that's probably a pretty good reason to miss your high school graduation.
Yeah. I figured, my parents were always super supportive, and as long as I got my homework done and could make work, school still work, I could do the music thing. And so yeah, when the opportunity came up for us to go out and do that, our agent I think got us the gig, and so I was like, "Well, you're gonna miss your graduation. Do you care?" And I was like, "Not particularly, no." So yeah, that's where I was on my high school graduation. So it's pretty cool.
Well, and I would think at that age, like, did your head just totally swell and blow up? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, yeah, I mean, I definitely, I tried to stay humble, and I had a good family around me that kept me in the good, humble place, but there was certainly a little part of you that felt, pretty cool about being able to do this kind of stuff. So I'd be lying if I
yeah,
didn't say a little bit for sure. Yeah.
yeah. How many brothers do you have? Just one?
I have 2 older brothers, actually.
Okay. And what are
Yep.
they doing anything with music still?
My oldest brother actually does. Yep, he still plays music. He's also a really good producer, mixer, engineer. So he does all
Mm,
that stuff for people. He's currently working on a couple records for people. And my other brother, not as much anymore. He kind of got out of the business, and he's got a family. My oldest brother has a daughter also, but yeah, so they got out of it.
I would imagine, is there some competition there between the three of you? Okay, so no competition.
No.
Or I don't know if anybody else does this, but I imagine musical families like at Christmas and holidays, like you guys are all around the piano
Mm.
singing. Is this an accurate depiction of those holidays?
Well, I'll put it to you this way: what you see in the Hallmark movies doesn't happen at our house. It could happen in other musical households, but not our
Okay,
house.
okay.
No, no, no Hallmark movie at our house on Christmas. No.
Okay, fair enough. Well, congratulations on having a song out on the radio. I
Yeah,
mean, I gotta believe, like, even if it didn't hit as high on the charts as you wanted it to, I mean, what an accomplishment.
yeah.
What a great accomplishment to have a song on the radio. I mean, you have children now, Justin?
I don't. I have 3 nieces and a nephew. No kids. We have a dog, golden retriever. No, and it totally is. I think it's a lot of times we need to put into context. Certain things. It's hard sometimes when you look at other like quote unquote really famous people that have had massive hits on the radio. you forget that even what you've accomplished, there's been tons of people that wanted that and never even got that either. So, it's good. My wife is always good about reminding me to slow down and be thankful and grateful for the things that you did get to have, because there are a lot of people that would absolutely trade places with you just to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. And how long have you been married?
Ooh, I have been married now almost 9 years, 8 years, a little over 8 years. Yeah. 8.5 years, almost 9. We've been together for about 12
Put
years
you on the
now.
spot.
So yeah.
I know it's always hard. Like, it's fine to say how long you've been married, but the reality is, like, I think we all want credit for how long it's really been.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we've been, I mean, because you're committed from day
Yeah.
one. So we
Absolutely.
should all get credit from day one,
Yeah, absolutely. I think
I think.
I think you're right. That's probably why I always say, I've been married for April, we've been together for like 13 years, because you feel like there's an accomplishment there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you want credit for every argument that you've endured over that
Yes.
time.
We've never had any, but I'm sure. No, I'm just joking. Of course.
No,
Of
right,
course.
right, right. That makes sense. Minnesota nice. That's why you guys have never had a fight,
Right.
probably. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, well, you're up there in Minnesota and a song comes on the radio
Mhm.
and you hear it. Where do you go? What's the song? What song have you chosen for our audience today?
Yeah, so I put a lot of thought. I got back to you just a couple of days ago because I was trying to, I'm just trying to think of like the perfect song, and I, there's so many songs I could have picked,
Hmm.
obviously, but I picked this one song because it sort of encompassed three different things that I just absolutely love. Number one, I picked the song "My Girl" by the Temptations,
Awesome.
which is just an absolute classic, right? It's been inducted into the Songwriting Hall of Fame. It's part of trying to think, what is it now? The National Registry of Significant Songs. All these
Cool.
huge things, right? And so I picked it again. Temptations are probably my top 5 favorite groups of all
Okay.
time. And then it was written by Smokey Robinson, whom I also love as his music and songs, but I also love Motown, and that's where Smokey and the Temptations were on. And so to me, it sort of encompassed like three things that I just love about music. And I think, for me, especially right now, because it's getting to be summertime, and Motown is my go-to summer music, right? Because it's just, Berry Gordy, who started Motown, said, hey, whenever we release a song, it's got to be upbeat. Everybody has to be able to relate to it. And so you can't not relate to the songs. You can't not love the music, the beat of the music, and it makes you feel good. So I had to go with this one. That's why I picked it.
Well, I would think that I would agree that every song that came out of there was like that. Even later stuff that I'm maybe more familiar with that we wouldn't, I guess, kids nowadays would consider oldies, but we wouldn't consider oldies, like
Yeah,
Boys to
scary,
Men and
right?
stuff. Right, yeah.
Yeah,
But it did all come out and it was all relatable and just feel good. And
hmm,
something I was kind of thinking about this song and I was thinking about, you can probably hum it way better than I can, but the beginning of the song, bum ba ba da da
yeah,
da dum,
yeah. That riff,
it
right?
just
You know it right away.
immediately. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, you
even think
are
of like
pulled in.
like when the bass starts, da, 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 da. Right
Yeah.
away, right?
Yes.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned the riff. Like with this song too, other than Satisfaction, this is considered the most recognizable riff right away around the world.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
you could play it on any of those game shows, and I think every person would know it.
100%.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
immediately just feel good, like, you just wanna
yeah,
move, like, yeah.
totally.
Yeah, okay, so I had a great idea as you said that. I lots of times I will, play music while I'm cleaning and all that kinda stuff. And so I think what I'm gonna do is on Pandora, I'll just pull up Motown,
Yeah,
and then whatever comes up, that's what I'm gonna listen to. Yes, it's gonna be perfect
awesome.
cleaning music. Yes,
Let me
okay.
know how it goes. Let me know if the broom, swifts that much better today.
It'll give me a better attitude.
There you go.
It might actually get done.
Yeah, the vacuum won't feel quite so heavy today.
Yeah,
So.
right, right. Okay, well, let's talk about what you love about this song. Is it the lyrics? Is it the sound? Do you have memories that go along with it? How do you connect with this song, Justin?
Yeah, so I probably say all the above. It's funny because lyrically, if you look at the lyrics of the song, they're not like the most incredible deep lyrics, but Smokey had this great way of sort of like painting these different pictures or intertwining, these thoughts. And it's funny. I was thinking about the lyrics, and you kind of look at the simplicity of these lyrics too, where I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. Like he's taking the opposite, right? When it's cold outside, I've got the month of May.
Right?
Things like that. And it's
Yeah.
interesting, and I know Motown was a big influence on the Beatles, and I was thinking about it's kind of like this was the blueprint for the Beatles. Hello, goodbye. You say yes, I say no. You say stop. It's kind of like they kind of took a play, out
Yeah.
of Smokey's, playbook, of sort of taking this simplistic idea of taking one thing and making it the opposite as a more positive. And so I love like those kind of lyrics. I got so much honey, the bees envy me. Sweeter song than the birds in the trees. Again, there's nothing so complex or deep, but they're just kind of like they're just perfect for the song. You know?
Well, you said one of the goals for Motown was relatable.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's all of that's relatable. We know what the weather's like in May.
Hmm.
We know, how much honey the bees have.
Yep.
So I think that it's just relatable. Like exactly what their goal was. It's relatable.
Yep. Yep. 100%. And I
Hmm.
think too, for again the other things that I love about this, is the music bed that was put to it. For your listeners, if I'm sure a lot of them are already familiar, but if they haven't, they should check out. It's called "Standing in the Shadows of Motown," and it's all about
Oh, okay.
the Funk Brothers, who were the house band. And a lot of people don't realize it was the same guys playing on the Temptations, the Smokey Robinson stuff, the Supremes, Marvin Gaye. All of them had the same band members, that were the house band and playing on these records. And the way that they kind of put the music together too is, from a musician standpoint, is really interesting. But even as just as a listener standpoint, I often think like when I listen to songs, and not that I have this all knowing, but I think, well, what would I change about a song? What would I maybe
Mm,
change or do to a song just to kind of bring something different to it? And to me, this is one of those songs. There's literally nothing I would change. To me, it's like it's
mm.
everything about it's perfect, right down from the lyrics to the music bed that they played to David Ruffin who sang it. I mean, his voice on it is just perfect.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I connect with I think all of it just as like an overall, just everything about it. I just
Yeah.
love it.
Got a podcast? Are you loving it, but not loving how much time post production takes? Or maybe you just have other tasks calling your name a little bit louder. Virtually You can help. Check out virtuallyuva.com, supporting you in all things podcasting like editing, show notes, audiograms, and much more. See the link in the show notes. They're waiting to give you back your time. And on that note, let's get back to the show.
Yeah. Is there any memory that comes to mind when you hear the song? Can you remember fishing? Can you remember driving down the road, seeing a pretty girl?
Yeah.
Any of that
There's a
kind of
couple.
stuff?
Yeah, no, there's a couple of memories actually. Probably the first memory I have is, well, it's funny. There's a handful of musical memories that I have that all stem from driving in my parents' '77 Bonneville. And again, my dad was a musician, and my mom's just a big music lover. And my mom actually was really into Motown music, especially growing up. So I don't know if you remember from Minnesota, there's Cool 108 was the oldie station for a long time. When I was a kid,
Yeah.
it was 50s and 60s music, and so Cool 108 was always playing in the car. And so, but this is one of those songs that I distinctly remember hearing for the first time and just being like,
Mm.
man, Dad, Mom, who is this? You know. And I
Oh,
just remember, I think if memory serves right, it's how I remember it in my head distinctively, but we were going to my grandparents' house just for whatever reason. And I remember listening and hearing this song, and then the whole time we're at my grandparents, I'm kind of doing my thing, but this song kind of keeps popping back into my head. And so I want to hear like more Motown music. And I just remember talking to my like dad about like, who's this Temptations? Who's this Motown? What is this thing? And talking to my mom about it. And so yeah, I think like it just kind of brings me back to just being a little kid and just kind of getting into that kind of music.
I love that it sparked so much curiosity for you. And then they were able to share some of their passion with you. There's nothing better, I think, than when your kids are interested in something that you're
Hmm.
interested in, you know? So how cool that you were like, hey, tell me more, share
Yeah,
more.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I think too, when you hear this song, and I don't know if you're going to touch on it or not, but you can't help but think of the movie.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin, and
Yep.
it's funny because I know him, Macaulay Culkin, but I only know her as her character name, which was Veda. But she
Oh
was
yeah.
so cute and just such a odd story, really, that her dad was this mortician and just
Hmm.
everything that was going on. but they had such a great friendship. And I think that even gives, emotion to the song too. When you hear it, if you've seen the movie, you kind of connect it to just this bosom friendship.
Hmm.
And they just were so happy to just, what was his name? Something David, John David? Wasn't it two names? Thomas? Something
Yeah, what was his
Thomas?
name again?
Thomas J. I think that's right.
Was it Thomas
Yeah.
J? Is that what it was? Yeah. Wow, it's funny. I even remember. I haven't seen that movie in like 25 years, and yet I
Yeah.
remember that. So.
Yeah, because she goes home and talks to her dad about it. And it's funny because my daughter actually has a friend that she calls Hayden J. So
Mm,
yeah, I guess that
funny.
happens. Maybe
Yeah.
there were two Thomases in that classroom.
Yeah. I think too, like, as a young man too, this song, you can't help but have that girl or that crush, and so I think as a guy, even more, this song kind of speaks to you. This was actually too, it's funny because remember the song My Guy
No.
from Mary Wells? Nothing you could say could
Mm,
tear me away from my guy.
absolutely.
So that was also, Mary Wells was on Motown, and so this was Smokey's response to My Guy. It was My Girl.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, to kind of have, the girls had the My Guy for them, and Smokey came out with wrote My Girl for the Temptations for the guys. And so, I think, like I said, as a guy, you have those crushes, or you have that girlfriend or whatever that you kind of relate this song to, or this is for them kind of a thing. Um, no, but I'll tell you, this song always ends up at, I do, you and I are of the age and when we used to make mixtapes for people.
Yes.
And so I always say it's either going to be really lame or kind of cute, but I like to make my wife mixtapes.
Oh, it's always going to be really cute.
Yeah. And, of course we can't do it on tapes because who has a cassette player
Yeah.
anymore? So now it's a mixtape, quote unquote, on a Spotify playlist. But usually whenever I make her a mixed tape of some sort, this song usually ends up on it too, because you can't not, have it. But
It's funny how often that comes up in my interviews when we talk about songs. I think probably because they're from the past.
mhm.
But it comes up often how much we all used to make these mixtapes and mix CDs,
Yeah.
and just so many memories that I wonder, whoever's listening to this in their car, or they're going for a walk or taking their dog for a walk quick, like just how much they're flooded with, some of their favorite mixtapes that they made and who they made them for,
Hmm.
and just absolutely crazy. I always think of, when they were on, you'd play the MTV video and you'd have to hit the play and the record at the same time, and
Hmm.
you
Oh
hoped
yeah.
that the person introducing the song would shut up so you could
Yep.
get the beginning of the song without them talking.
Yep. Or if you weren't quick enough, you'd miss just the first little bit of the song, and we'd pick up somewhere. And yeah, yeah. Well, I think, not to sound cliche, but I think that, like, music is. I don't even say just for me. I think for so many people, and again, not to sound cliche, but music says what we can't, right? So when we
Mm,
like somebody, we tell them through music because it's going to tell them the things we just can't tell them for whatever reason. It's also one of those things where, like, music hits you when you're happy, music hits you when you're sad, music hits you when you're, I mean, whatever emotion, there's a song for it. And so I think, like, when you talk about the whole like mixtape thing, I think like that's where that came in for our generation, is because I think really that most part at the end of the day was it just conveyed what we were either unable to say or too nervous to say to some boy or some girl or whatever it was. And so it's like, well, here, hopefully figure out how I'm feeling about you through
yeah.
this little, Maxell cassette tape.
Well, I think that they were like a little bit ahead of their time. They were really just a
Yeah,
playlist,
100%. Yeah.
and we've just modernized it to playlists now. But
Yep.
I love that that you're saying. I thought you were going to go a different direction with that thought, but you're saying that music says what we can't say, and that's exactly right. I love that. I've never heard that
Yeah.
before. Hmm. Yeah, hit the
Yeah.
nail on the head.
Yeah. No, I firmly believe that. I mean, think about this. I mean, a few years back, Paul McCartney was in Russia doing a concert. And I don't know how many people that were there spoke English, but yet they knew all of his songs, which were in English. They were singing along to his songs in English, you know? And that's the thing about music. I mean, what else in this world can translate to people that don't even speak your language, and yet they're singing along, they know what you're saying, they know what you're singing. I mean, what else is there in this world other than music? And I think
Yeah.
that's a huge reason why I think music is so powerful to people. So I don't mean to go off on that whole thing, but I think, or this, but I think that's why, arts are so important, and I think arts often get overlooked, but I think arts are the one consistent thing where they can translate whatever it is to anybody or everybody. You don't even have to speak the same language. And I think it's a super powerful thing.
I would agree with that, and I think that everybody needs that creative outlet. I mean, I'm the biggest extrovert that you'll ever meet, but for me to sit down and be creative in some way, shape, or form is so like freeing or calming, or it just does so much
hmm
for me. And I think as we start to like shorten recess time, and we have more academics, and we are giving more screen time and all this other crazy stuff that we allow, and almost we allow it before we realize it's an issue, and then it's an issue and we don't know how to back up. And I think that's another reason why the arts are so important, because people need that like de-stress, that like
Yep.
calming of the central nervous system. Like, let me just zone out and
Yeah.
just listen to this music, or just paint this picture, or whatever. I mean, even your brother, when he's mixing the songs and stuff, that's a creative process for him. And
Oh, very much so.
mhm, mhm. So I think that's a good point that you bring up for sure. Is there a few more memories you wanted to speak to regarding this song?
I think the other thing, I'll just say this too, that may be part of why I love this song so much, not so much a memory, but for me, I love all kinds of music. I love all genres of music and from different decades. But if somebody came to me tomorrow and they were like, okay, you can only listen to one style of music from like one year, what would you pick? And for me, for whatever reason, I don't know why, it's just me, but for me, like the most perfect little blip of music time is 1965, and that's when this song came out. It's kind of like it's when music started to get a little bit more interesting, but yet it wasn't like maybe like far out psychedelic yet, which I can enjoy that
Mm,
too. But for some reason, so I put this song, in there in this spot right here. Probably one other thing I'd probably say that like is a memory that I did want to share too with this song was the movie. There's a movie about the Temptations. Everybody ever wants to check it out, you can check it out. There's a movie that was made about those guys, and so it kind of re-piqued my interest in the Temptations
please.
and Motown. And I was dating a girl at the time, and so for my birthday one year, one of the things she got me was it was the best of the Temptations. And so I got into that and I just loved it. I mean, it just,
Mm,
and then from there, like my Motown obsession just took off, right? Like that started it, and suddenly I'm buying box sets of Motown, and I'm buying Smokey Robinson, the Miracles, and the Supremes, and so on. And so that sparked, and so my brother and I, my middle brother, whom was living in the Twin, I was living in St. Cloud at that time. He was living in the Twin Cities, so we didn't see each other a ton. And not that we ever had, I don't want to make it seem like we didn't have a bad relationship, but we weren't necessarily like as close as we maybe once were, just because we lived by each other and different things or whatever. And so I was telling him about the Temptations a little bit, and he kind of got a little interested. So then for his birthday, I bought him the best of the Temptations, and we kind of like I don't know, kind of rebonded and reconnected over that music. And so I think like that's another thing that music can do is,
sure.
connects you to people.
Yep.
So that was like a fun memory too. And then, as he got into it more, then we're spending time just having these conversations about these songs and the music, and talking to each other about the group or other groups, and oh, and you check this out, if you check this out. And so that was always that's kind of a fun memory, just as a fun way that we reconnected through the, my girl and the Temptations and that music.
Yeah. I started listening to this podcast, and it talks about the evolution of music in general. And so I was super intrigued, much like you, but now it's happening kind of for me now. But you're right. It's right around the 60s, mid 60s, where music really kind of took a turn. And you're right. It's right before the psychedelic times, when they were starting to trip
hmm
out on LSD and create, or
hmm
LSD, and create music. It's so interesting how
Yeah.
much we don't know about the evolution of music. It's interesting how much I didn't realize that there was like this like underground circuit in Georgia of the blues singers, and how they were kind of,
hmm
they had this whole underground movement, and you could go see them. And it blows my mind, and it was just a different time, and so interesting to think
Oh yeah.
about it, and what those musicians or artists must have had to go through, and just all of it is really impressive and interesting.
hmm
And well, I know that you have had, first of all, thank you so much for bringing this song to my attention, or, discussing it with me, because it really brought out some good points, and just fun to hear how people connect with music. But I
hmm
know that you have a song that you're working on, or you've already finished it. Can you kind of give me the details of where your motivation is with that song right now?
Yeah, so I'm currently working on a project. Well, two things. If anybody wants to check out for any reason any of the stuff I've released before, you can check it out on Spotify. I think it's on Apple Music, a bunch of different platforms. Justin McGuinn, McGuinn. You can check that out. That's where I release some solo material. You can also check out some other stuff I've done at justinploof.com. But currently, the thing that I'm working on right now that I'm really excited about is the condensed version. Is I come from a long military family, and I've had family members that have served in all major wars, and including Vietnam. And we have family friends that served in Vietnam. And one of the things that always bothered me was the way that Vietnam vets were treated when they came home, and they were never given a proper welcome home or thank you. And so a while back, I started thinking about that more. And so I kind of had this inner dialogue, and it was kind of like, well, so what are you going to do about it? And so I thought, well, what I can do is I can maybe write music. That's what I can do. And so I wrote a song. It's written kind of in first person, or not even kind of, it is written in first person based off of interviews with people that I know, things specifically from their life and experience in Vietnam. Some other things I've seen, just, documentaries and things. But I wrote this song as a first person from the time that they're kind of born and they end up, going to Vietnam, and they come home and they're dealing with all this stuff. And there's reconciliation that happens at the war memorial between these war protesters and this particular soldier. And what I'm doing with it is when I release it, it's going to be basically just released out in the world. People can stream it if they want and share with people. Then you can also download it and pay whatever you want. But all the money is going to be donated to the Vietnam Veterans of America and the Vietnam War Memorial. So if people could check it out, maybe help spread the word about that, that would be awesome. Because the more people that are aware of it, the more money we can raise, just more money that's going to go to help Vietnam Veterans of America, which helps actually veterans of every war, which is cool. And then actually, I didn't even know until recently, the Vietnam War Memorial, actually, I just assumed that they just got federal funding because it's a war memorial. They don't. Actually, they're pretty reliant on people donating money. And so they're trying to do things to make sure that that memorial stays as nice as it can be, that they're adding names consistently as they're finding things out in the years that have, that's since then that have come out. They're working on trying to create an extra spot for those that died from Agent Orange. And so they need money. And so that's something that we can do to honor, I think, the men and
Oh,
women that
wow.
served in Vietnam.
I love that so much because I love that you challenged yourself and you said there's a problem. Am I going to complain about it or have a solution? And you came up with a solution, and holy smokes, what an awesome solution.
Thank you.
You make me feel of like a modern, or not modern day, I guess Toby Keith is modern day, but
Yeah.
a younger version of Toby Keith,
Oh,
which
thank
is
you.
so great. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I love the motivation behind this. I'm thinking that I probably have your permission, but I'd like to put it on my website and just have it in support period, like its
Oh,
own spotlight.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be, honestly, thank you. That would be amazing. I mean, again, this can only be as successful as people knowing about it. And so for you to be willing to do that,
Mhm.
thank you. That, honestly, thank you.
Yes, I would love to. It'll be in the show notes as well, you guys. He's going to put it on justinploof.com, and I will have that in the show notes too. You're thinking June or July for this, is that correct?
Yep. So we are finishing up the recording process. Will be done actually this coming week, and then getting the video stuff ready. And there'll be a video to accompany. It's going to actually showcase some Vietnam veterans, and so that'll be coming out as well. And all that stuff you can link right through my website at justinploof.com.
I'm super excited about this. I'm super excited to support it. I have family members as well. My husband has family members that have served, and just anything we can do to thank them. There is a Toby Keith song that says something to the effect of "Thank you for going and doing what I don't want to do,"
Yeah.
and that's how I feel about all of our service men and women. That they're
Mhm.
doing something that honestly I'm too scared to do it, but
Yeah.
they're doing a brave job, and I know their families sacrifice. They sacrifice. They come home with PTSD. They come home with injuries. There's a
Mhm.
reacclimation process with their families. So there's just a lot. Thank you so much for your time today, Justin. And with that, that's going to be the last note of this episode. And that's a wrap.
Awesome. Thank you. I hope I gave you what you were looking for and needed. So.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. I just I'll put together when the episode is finished, I will put together like a media package. It's very small. It's nothing.
Sure.
It's just but if it's something you feel like sharing, um
Oh, absolutely.
I want you to send me the information as far as like website, and maybe if you have any graphics that go with it, so I can put it on my website and give,
Sure.
some spotlight to it. And then, I don't know, I'll probably have to re-pick your brain about some of the stuff. I'll look most of it up. But if there's something I can't come across, I'll figure that out. Maybe I'll pull up a 77 Bonneville and I'll put the audiogram on that. Do you know what an audiogram is?
No, what is it?
It's a waveform. So it's a 1 minute like snapshot of our interview. And then the waveform goes on top of a picture. So like when you're scrolling
Oh, yeah,
social
yeah, yeah.
media. Yep.
Yeah, now I know what you're saying.
So
Okay, yeah, great,
yeah.
great,
Yeah. So maybe I'll do
fun.
something like
I
that. That'd
think
be kind of cool.
it was a tan or brown 77 Bonneville. So if you
Okay.
can, I can get as specific there as you need.
If you have a picture, feel free to send it. If you don't, no pressure. I can look at one up
I'll,
online.
I'll look and see. I'm wondering my parents
Yeah.
might have one. I'll see if I can. I'll see if they do. I'll have my mom scan it in. And I'll send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Very cool. Okay, well, if you have any questions or anything else comes up, you just let me know. If there's something else you need me to include, I'm happy to do that. So thank you so much for your
Awesome.
time.
No, thank you.
I
Thanks for
feel so
including me.
honored.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry I missed that initial email too. So I appreciate you sticking with me and bearing with me. So I appreciate you even having me.
Oh my gosh, I totally get it. Things get buried so fast, so fast. I was looking for a shipping
Yeah.
label before I talked to you, and I was like scrolling through. I'm like, where is that stupid shipping label? Because I had to print it off today, and so things just get buried. They just do. It doesn't even
Yeah.
matter how important it is to you. So
Yeah. Well, thank you very much again for having
yeah,
me. This was fun.
yeah, of course. Hope you feel better soon.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
Yeah, have a good one.
And with that, that's going to be the last note of this episode. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? You never know what rabbit holes we'll get to go down and explore. Were you reminded of anything? Or anyone? Share what it was with me in a review. Honestly, the reviews don't do me any favors other than knowing people like you are listening to this podcast. Insert cheesy wink. However, the ratings do help, so leave me 5 stars. You know you wanna. This podcast was produced by Virtual You, supporting you in all things podcasting. To connect or check me out on social media, I know you're just gonna stalk me. But see the show notes, as always, for details. Can't wait to dive into my next guest's memories with a beat. Hit subscribe now. You don't want to miss the next episode.